Hey, good evening, my dear friends. So it's been 2 years since COVID has reached our shores of the United States, right? From January of 2020. And we're still dealing with a lot of misinformation, a lot of paranoia, a lot of still politicizing of everything. And one of the things that I find funny and at the same time sad is the way they are making us care for the kids before they go to school. So I remember a few situations when we flew from another country and we did PCR tests to fly in here, and they told me that my son Isidore cannot go in because he is flying from another country. And I said, well, he tested negative. He has no symptoms. None of us have symptoms. No. I said, well, in 5 days should be fine. No, you have to stay 2 weeks in the home. I'm like, 2 weeks in the home, we'll do another test when he comes here. Like, no, it's not going to work. No test needed. If you do a test, still 2 weeks. You don't do a test, still 2 weeks. Made absolutely no sense. Well, now that we flew in from Florida, and in Florida is just as much as here, I've been having gazillions of phone calls from people sick with COVID, some of them lightly sick, some of them need to be hospitalized, whether they were vaccinated or not vaccinated, still very sick, whether they were sick before, had vaccination, had a booster, then they got sick, which brings me to another point. Some people say that, I had the booster, then 3 days I got sick after that. Correlation doesn't mean causation. So what I would explain to you is, where are you getting that booster? Well, probably in the pharmacy, in the doctor's office. Well, people who go there usually are sick. Even if they don't know they're sick, they're going there for some medications. So you probably got it from someone else. Now, that brings me back to another story, that you should be filtering the air just as you're filtering the water to prevent mass contamination. But again, I will shush on that. So let's see. It's the first time I'm doing one of those tests. I got one of those tests. It's apparently very difficult to get. Thank you, Mark, for giving us the test, and we're going to perform it live right now and see if Isidore is doing okay. By the way, in terms of my protocol for treatment of COVID, a little bit changed with this new virus, because it depends on the person's comorbid conditions much more. In most cases, just some Tylenol would be enough, but I'm a little cuckoo. I'm worried about later on side effects, and I like to overtreat rather than undertreat. One of the things that I'm concerned about, and I actually had a case that we reported, it's not published yet, where someone got cancer, lymphoma, from a vaccination. So the same thing you can get from the disease itself. It was on the nose of someone's. Что это? And here, let's read how we do that. And I believe, just like you can get from other viruses, later on, 20 years down the line, we'll be dealing with cancer from this virus, and therefore I do recommend to treat it, so less of it enters your cell, less of it irritates your body and causes damage, because you understand, it's not just one x-ray that you get or one sunburn that you get. It's multiple damage, multiple hit to our DNA that eventually will cause it to lose its organization and lead to cancer. And this is definitely giving a hit. By the way, my feeling is, unfortunately, I hope I'll be proven wrong, but we will never get rid of the COVID. It will wax and wane, but it will always be there until we will filter the air with UVC, ideally. Just like I did in my office where nobody got sick, and I was open the entire time. All right, so let's read how it's being done. So here we have all the stuff, and what you do, you wash your hands, we did that. Then you open this packet. Okay. We're reading the Spanish one? All right. I guess there is another one. This doesn't matter. It's all in drawings. You just, here. One, you open this one here.
Dad, don't read in Spanish.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. You just need to draw it. Here we go.
There's some water in there.
Yeah, that's the fluid to test it. And this is looks like a pregnancy test here. This is, I guess, to keep it dry. All right, so we have this here. C stands for control. T is for the test.
Wait, it's going to tell me...
Positivo. So if it's positivo, you have 2 lines. Negativo, you have only 1 line in the control. All right, so let's go for it. We open this up. Go ahead. You want to open it?
The plastic cover?
Yeah. Then yes, you open it. Yeah, remove the plastic.
Rip it?
Yeah, I can rip it. Yeah, rip it up. Let's throw it in the garbage. Don't spill the fluid.
Hopefully not.
No, you're not gonna spill it. Now we're gonna take this swab and look at it. Another thing is they used to tell us to go down to the brain. Now they give us a small little thing that, if I push it down to the brain, I won't be able to pull it out. Don't worry, we won't do that. So now what we do is you see, and even look where they draw it, where it's drawn. See, they're not going all the way to the nose, all the way up. So you get negative tests and you wonder why. Man, come on. Anyway, whatever. So, you see, you don't have to go all the way in. So let's go. Your nose, sorry about that. Take a deep breath. Do they see your nose? Here, just so you know how we're doing it. No. And don't spill it.
I'm not holding this, Dad.
Let me hold it for you. All right, here we go. Your nose. All right, super. 1 thing. All right, sorry. Okay. Now what we do... Okay, now it's fine. It's fine. It's connected. Now we put it in, and now we have to wiggle it around.
The connection.
Wiggle it in. Now we have to squeeze it a couple of times. Look, you see, you press on it, so the fluid goes up. You see the cotton ball, so the fluid has to go up. This is the fluid. Gotta go up above the cotton ball. That's why you squeeze it in a couple of times. Amazing how we read Spanish, huh? Isn't it? Now you take out the thing, you discard it. You don't need that anymore because you've already removed the DNA from the cotton ball. Okay, you squeeze it out, you dissolve it. Oh, this is like garbage. We'll throw everything in garbage. Okay. Now you close the entire thing up. Hermetically. Now you dip it and drop it. How long do you have to wait? 15 minutes. Well, you're not gonna wait 15 minutes for this. All right, so let's see, where are we dropping it?
Oh, come on.
Where are we dropping it? We're dropping it in this one over here. Right. So you see, we drop it right in here. In the S, the sample. S for sample, right over there. So let's go. We press it and drop it. How many drops?
Oopsie.
Not oopsie.
4 times.
4 gotas. 4 drops, I guess. We're learning Spanish here.
That was like 6.
It's fine. Actually, more is not worse in this situation. And now we're gonna... Oh, look at that. We're seeing it already passing in. Here you can see it passing in pink. And let's see what's going on.
Are you joking? 15 minutes.
And now we have to wait. Yeah, it's gotta change the colors. So we will send you the picture when it's done. And
just start a live video.
I want to start a live video about it. So anyway, in terms of the treatment that I recommend, is that you can go up tonight. Continue reading with Mom. I'll come back. Okay. So regarding what I recommend for the treatment nowadays, your vitamins, take them. Ivermectin, for myself, I would do that as prophylaxis. I would recommend doing that. I would take 1 pill twice a day. If you were exposed to someone, even if you don't have symptoms, I would do it for 5 days to reduce the ability of the virus to enter the cell, and hopefully you will not get the symptoms. And if you'll be sick, it'll be much milder. I would do the vitamin D, 50,000 international units, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere and you don't really get out much, especially in the winter time. You're not going to get the necessary UV light in order to synthesize vitamin D. And from the foods, we really don't have enough of vitamin D, even it's fortified milk. So take the 50,000 international units. We're talking about a short period of time. It's very difficult to be taking too much of it. Don't forget, it's a fat-soluble vitamin, so you must take it with, you don't must, but it will absorb better. You'll have more use of it if you'll take it with a fatty meal, so milk or cheese or cottage, something like that. If you're lactose intolerant, find another fatty thing. The next thing is the zinc, and definitely safe with 50 milligrams of zinc a day. For a child, 30 milligrams a day, and you'll just take it for about 5 days at the most. You don't need more than that. It's supposed to shorten any flu, including the COVID. Vitamin C there have been more questions about its efficacy. I still recommend taking it, but the dosage has to be, as I said before, 2,000 in the morning, 2,000 at night. You take it with lots of water to avoid kidney stones. Because of the change in the pH, it may increase the risk of developing kidney stones. Aspirin. Definitely I recommend aspirin if there is no duodenal ulcers, if there are no stomach ulcers, if you don't have a heartburn. If you do have a heartburn, take some antacids. Take the aspirin with food. I recommend 325 milligram, preferably. Unless you're still not sure if you got sick or not, you can take 81. I've still seen COVID toes, which is the red, painful toes, like you want to chop them off, that I spoke about in 2020. And people still ask me, what is this? I didn't know it happened. It happened a month after. If you're watching and it's you, I told you what to do about it. But to prevent it, you can prevent it by anticoagulation. I do recommend blood work to find out if you're at increased risk for clotting. If you take an example of myself, as you know, I like to experiment myself. Okay, by the way, it's already showed that he's negative. The control is positive, that he is negative. So mazel tov. We're losing someone. I was sick before in August of 2020 by touching the bicycle and not washing my hands right away of someone who was sick. She wasn't sick at that time, but later on we found out she was sick. The next thing was 2 days, joints pains, everything was really, really bad. The test did not show positivity on the nose, but the blood test did show mild positivity. And again, that's because of the fact that I got it through an oral transmission as opposed to a nasal transmission. That's why the test didn't show it, in my opinion. Again, that's one of the ideas that I had, how one can vaccinated before they had the vaccine. But the point is that our body, despite being vaccinated, and afterwards I got January and February, I got the Pfizer vaccine. And then I got sick again from my son, who got it from his school in September. I was testing it. I was without a mask on purpose, trying to see if I'll get sick, and I got sick. And I said, well, I was vaccinated. I was sick before. It shouldn't be that bad. And everybody says you don't need to take any treatment. I decided not to take any treatment. And my wife said, you're crazy. Take your treatment. So I said, let me see my blood work. And when I checked my blood work, I was shocked. I have very elevated D-dimers, which means that there was a lot of clotting occurring in my blood vessels, and the body was breaking it and was not breaking it fast enough. So I needed to get some help. So actually I took anticoagulants more than just taking aspirin. I took the Xeljanz, I took ivermectin. That's, what I recommend for people. And I recovered and I was fine. But the point is that even if you were vaccinated, don't take it, don't assume that you are not at a risk to die. If I did not take the Eliquis, I took 5 milligrams twice a day. That's the brand name of the anticoagulant. I could have died from a lung clot. And you know me, I exercise daily. I'm generally very healthy. My BMI is like 20. I don't have any other medical condition, no asthma, no diabetes. And yet I would have died. So, yes, it was the Delta. Probably. Again, I have no clue why they don't let us still find what type of virus we have. And it's in New York, you understand? They allow other states to find what type of virus it is, but here, as a physician, I can request it. They will not give me the opportunity to see it. So it's, again, too politicized. It really does not help. And look at this. New York, you can see the number of the infections with COVID are on the rise, and it is the Omicron, as we suspect, which is more contagious but milder. And the number of deaths are on the rise. In Florida, the number of COVID cases are similarly on the rise, but the number of deaths are on the decline. Why? Because they do the Regeneron or the Eli Lilly, the antibody infusions. Here, what on earth is going on? Excuse that it doesn't really work. Well, maybe it doesn't really work I don't know. I think most likely it helps, even if it doesn't help as much as it was effective in the other cases. I think it still is effective. So they went here from offering it to people who were just in the vicinity of people who were sick, kids who didn't have any risk factors. They were offering that in the hospital. My friend was sick and she was given, and her husband was given. They offered even for the kids, even though they didn't have any symptoms. To the point, and this is in New York, to the point now that nobody can get it, even people who are very, very sick. And you have to have, in most cases, 3 physicians approve the antibody because they're in short supply. And in Florida, amazing governor. He got it for all of them. They come to their house, so you don't even have to go to the hospital to lay there with all the sick people who are coughing. They come to your home, the nurse, and they give you the infusion. I mean, that's the way it should be done. I have no idea why they don't do a similar way over here. Anyway, if you are listening and you are wondering, again, the summary of what I'd recommend to do is, if you are exposed, take prophylactically ivermectin. It's very safe. Most time, if you visited a restaurant, most likely you have invited some parasites. So worst case scenario, you will clean up your gut a little bit. I had that issue. And although it doesn't take care of all parasites, it will take care of many of them. And that dose is a very, very low dose. Again, if you're 15 kilogram or more, you can take already 3 milligrams. And that's been long approved and actually got Nobel Prize for the invention of this medication, ivermectin. I think it was in 2000, something like that. I can't remember exactly the date when they got it. The other thing is, if you are getting the vaccine or you are getting the disease and you have comorbid conditions, for example, arthritis, psoriasis, autoimmune disorders, or in the family of autoimmune disorders, please, please, please be very careful. I've seen pericarditis with crazy heartbeats. A close friend of mine got it. So I recommend to prophylact with anti-inflammatory medications before you actually even get the vaccine. Or when you get sick, if you get sick, most likely everybody, as I said, will get sick. And it's funny and sad that people who are protecting themselves and staying away from everybody are now sick and sick again. Sick again, yes, again. So it's which I'll get to in a second. It's actually important why I believe people are getting sick again. So I've seen arthritis, I've seen psoriasis, I've seen Crohn's that got worse after just the vaccine or after being sick with a disease. And the reason is it really riles your immune response and your body starts attacking itself. And so the inflammation becomes worse. Now, why do we get sick again if we had the vaccine? And you know me, I was a proponent of the vaccine. I went ahead and got the vaccine. I was thinking it will be a solution. I was wrong. It was not a solution. And that's why I am not forcing people to take the vaccine in my office as well. They have not. And nobody, again, as I said, got sick from within the office. They got sick from outside, from their family members. But nobody got sick while they were inside or passed it to anybody else in the office. The reason is that our body needs to be able to, just like our emotions, if we get excited, we need to be able to calm ourselves down. Otherwise, if we're constantly in an excited mode, we're called a psycho. We're crazy, right? So if our autoimmune is going to be constantly riled up against things that have homology, that are very similar to other parts in our body, and you know the virus is very smart, it's kind of like a wolf in sheep clothes. So it looks like parts of our body, and yet it hides within it something that will destroy our body. So when you break that apart, the body starts attacking different parts of it. But then after the problem goes away, it needs to calm the immune system down. Otherwise, you have the chronic inflammation, whether it is the pericarditis, because it's attacking some tissue that is similar on the heart envelope, the pericardium, or on the joints, or in the intestine, or psoriasis on the skin, or anywhere else. I've seen nails lost, I've seen hair loss in patches, not like diffuse, just as a telogen effluvium, which is after any kind of severe sickness, and that later on by itself recovers. So because of that issue, the vaccine that is supposed to do the same idea, which is to recognize the surface, which is similar to our body, identifying it and developing antibodies to clear it out of our bloodstream, is not long-term effective because the body needs to calm itself down. So that is unfortunately both the benefit, the wisdom of our immune system, and our weakness, why we are unable to mount a permanent immune response to this COVID virus, and why I believe most likely the virus will never leave us unless people will wake up and do, as I said, as we did in 1907, when New Jersey State was the first state to institute the filtration of the water throughout. And then within the United States, it quickly passed that we were filtering the water, the drinking water everywhere, and therefore typhus practically disappeared. We have around 700 cases a year that we get, and most of them are from people coming from outside the country. But one of the reasons I don't go to Mexico or Dominican Republic anymore, even though it's cheap and beautiful waters there, the ocean is great, weather is nice, is because we've been sick a couple of times when we went there with dysentery, with diarrhea, and people still die from it in Africa. Young kids, women, children, adults, because of the unclean water. So cleaning the air indoor using UVC is completely safe, effective, and you should do it. And you should actually demand the pharmacy where you're getting forced to get your booster or your vaccination, that they will actually have filtration in their air conditioning. And I think the government should give subsidies. I spent $20,000 on our system, and it's the best investment I did. And then I came up with ideas of making it cheaper with my friends, and we made some inventions to make the system available for everyone in a cheap way. There are a lot of different systems that you can use, but just need to make sure that it is effective to clear the entire air in the space. If you want, I'll be happy to recommend some people who can analyze your space. There are engineers in that field who will be able to then calculate what type of system you would need that are honest. All right, yeah. So I think a little over 15 minutes passed, and you can see he is negative, so he's going to school. Yeah. Funny again, right? Just now it's good enough. And the antigen test before PCR wasn't even good enough. And you don't have to stick it all the way to the brain and have brain freeze for a while after that. All right, my friends, stay safe. Masks are helpful. Wash your hands. And yes, wash your nose too with soap and water. And then don't forget to moisturize. So the way I do it, as I said in the past, is I take a little soap, regular soap. It's a detergent. Has two components on it, both a lipophilic, meaning fat-loving, and the hydrophilic, water-loving component. So it's able to remove oils and water as well. So you put it with water. So you put it in the nose. I massage it in with the other fingers. Don't mix the fingers, right? Then I take a little water, cup it in, and put it in, and blow bubbles, and then a little bit breathe it in, a little push it out. And then I take the water again with my fingers and I wash inside. And then I take Aquaphor or any moisturizer, plain is better, and I go ahead and moisturize that area. That should be done after any exposure, or if you live with someone who is sick with COVID, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, go ahead and do that. That'll help a lot. If you have sore throat and you have a colored sputum, There are questions whether you can use that as a sign of whether you need antibiotic or not. And again, I don't know why people are giving antibiotics when you have a virus. Antibiotics don't help the virus. Some of them are anti-inflammatory, so they'll help a little bit with inflammation. But why would you kill all your healthy bacterial flora just in order to bring down inflammation? There are specific things for that. You don't play tennis with a baseball bat. Yes, you can play. You know, if you're someone amazing, you can use a bat and win against me with a tennis racket, but you don't do that. So don't take an antibiotic like Zithromax or doxycycline if you don't have a pneumonia or if you don't have pharyngitis from a bacteria. So the thing that I've also done is I take hi Mark, I take a little bit soap water even. I gargle with it a little bit. Now you don't want to do it on a chronic in a chronic manner, because they've found that taking Listerine, for example, chronically using it as a mouthwash will lead to cancer in your mouth. So any kind of long-term chronic inflammation may lead to cancer, just like chronic inflammation from being sick with either psoriasis or arthritis or with COVID. It doesn't have to be long-term COVID, and I've had brilliant physicians who were sick with long COVID and were telling me about how they felt they had foggy brain. So go ahead and treat it. That's one of the other reasons why I'm so adamant and I'm so upset when I hear doctors say, oh, just take Tylenol, don't worry, it will go away. Nobody has the crystal ball. Nobody can tell it will go away without any sequelae, any side effects. And therefore, I prefer to drive with a seatbelt while driving carefully with a good car and airbag. So I have all the defenses, and not saying, oh, I drive carefully so I won't get into a car accident. There are a lot of variables. I like to secure each and every variable in everything that I do, especially when it comes to your health. So you put it in, you gargle with it a little bit, spit it out, and you'll see your throat will get much better. So some people do it with betadine. They put a couple of drops of iodine in. I don't do that. I think it will lead to resistance. Just like you wash your hands, if it's good enough to wash the hands with, it's good enough to wash other areas effectively. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. There's a very good book, as I was saying, called Moneyball. And it talks about how the baseball world was being governed by people who were in the high echelon and did not want to listen to facts. And for some reason, oh my God, this keeps stopping. So anyway, for some reasons, I feel like the same thing is happening with our medical group, which does not want to look at the facts and is so stuck up with their archaic forms of evaluation, and the pharmaceutical companies that seem to say, oh, this should work as well as ivermectin or better. It's like, wait a second, but you said ivermectin doesn't work. So how can it be compared now to ivermectin? You're saying it's working as well as ivermectin. Just because it's new, because you're going to sell more on the stock market, because more prescriptions are going to be written. And trust me, I respect Pfizer tremendously, the company. But you know, it's weird when you start hearing things like that about the new medication that are out, whether it's one company or another. And again, I don't want to get into names because it's irrelevant. It's not about the names. It's about the political and economical attitude. And what's up with ideas like before you had to stay 2 weeks, they would call you, they would spend so much money on making sure you stay at home and send you all the protective gear or money if you wanted to. And now they say if you're in the medical field, go right back if you don't have symptoms. And if you're not in the medical field, 5 days and afterwards you can go back to work. I mean, like, come on, make up your mind. I mean, it's still COVID. So suddenly you're not contagious. And if you are in the medical field and you're going to go in, that's where you're at a higher risk to infect other people. I mean, what's up? Just because you had the vaccine or because you didn't have the vaccine, this is such nonsense. You know, things have to make sense. You don't just make a decision because suddenly you realize that you've been throwing money down the drain and you owe China so much money that you're going to change the rules about whether you're contagious or not. Hello, that's not medicine, okay? That's witchcraft. I thought we left that centuries ago. Anyway, stay healthy, safe. Just like you wash your hands again, wash your nose, moisturize it afterwards. If you don't moisturize, there will be cracks. You'll be much more likely to get the virus in because there will be cracks in your defense system. As to vitamin D, check your blood work if you want to do it regularly. It's not going to stop you from getting the virus. So you can take vitamin D, you can take vitamin C, you can take garlic, you can sleep with garlic, onions, vitamin C. They're not going to stop you from getting the virus, just so you understand that. But if you do get the virus, it will help your body fight it more easily. And I still recommend something, whether it's Plaquenil or ivermectin, which are easy, well, not so easy to get, but are relatively cheap, although not as cheap as they should be, to prevent the virus from entering the cell. Because once it enters the cell, it will get into the lysogenic state. So people are asking me, okay, if I'm sick, how come I don't show it on the COVID test when I do my PCR? So there are a variety of reasons. One, you can do the test wrong. I've seen people test positive, next day they test negative, the next day they test positive again. The other factor is if it is in a lysogenic state, it means it enters the genes and it grows within them and reproduces within the cell. Now, if it is in a lytic state, then it breaks the cell, exploding outside with the virus particles, and then it's more easily tested. Now, of course, when you traumatize and you rub it well enough, deep enough, far enough, then you will traumatize some of those outside cells. They will break apart and you'll get some of that DNA, some of that on that test tube, and they'll be able to squeeze it out on the PCR. So depending on what stage you are in that specific region in your body, the viruses, it will depend on the positivity of your test and also on the symptomatic nature of your COVID infection. I think I've touched on a lot of points. And you can always, again, look at there's another thing. That's right. There's another thing. Okay. So I was called by people who are either breastfeeding or pregnant from a variety of states. And I explained to them what I would do. And it really kills my heart that I have shackles, unfortunately, and many physicians do on their hands. But the ivermectin in general is considered teratogenic, meaning not safe if you're pregnant. But studies in Africa in women who took the ivermectin did not know, they were taking it for parasitic infection, did not know that they were pregnant. The kids were born without side effects. They were not born at there was no increased risk of preterm delivery or other side effects. And yes, it does pass in the breast milk, but it does not seem like it's has caused any reported side effects there as well. So the concentration is probably too low to cause any damage. But again, I would calculate it based on your weight. I wouldn't go getting the veterinarian doses and think that you can compare it. It's kind of like there used to be a Botox that was created by this other doctor. It was not a bad Botox, but the dosages was different. And some people got into the hospital with inability to breathe and inability to move. And they were like, oh my God, Botox causes the side effects. No, Botox doesn't cause the side effects. They gave a mega dose of Botox. Okay. So it's not the Botox that caused it. It's the fact that they used Botox that was not FDA approved. It wasn't the Allergan Botox at that time. It was only Allergan type Botox A that they had, but they had this other person who was making this other Botox, and people overdid it. They didn't calculate correctly. They were self-injecting to themselves, and none of them were dermatologists, by the way, or plastic surgeons. They were primary care physicians. Not that primary care physicians can do a good job, but those were specifically not trained in the aesthetic field, let's put it this way, through residency. Taking a course 3 days doesn't make you an expert. So I talked about that. Yeah. And as I said before, I've treated as young as 2-year-olds, as old as 99-year-olds with my regimen, and they recovered and did well. So and that was not with the Omicron, that was with other viruses as well. Whether it was the Delta or not, we don't know. Stay safe, healthy, and don't get scared if you get it. Wear a mask to try and avoid it. Take the vitamins. In general, they're safe. You may have some nausea from the zinc. Usually that's what you may have dizziness from. Although if you look through side effects, you'll see that everything has side effects, including ivermectin. You may start saying to yourself, well, I got it from the ivermectin. It should be a board-certified physician who would tell you about that. And some people are getting the fake vaccine cards. My advice is don't go there. Don't do that. You are risking the physician you're asking to do that. You are going down a slippery slope. Don't do that. You can ask for a doctor to give you a letter that you won't get it. Even though I was reluctant and didn't want to give anybody a letter, I have given one person recently a letter because I believe that he's has other autoimmune disorders that may get exacerbated, and I've seen that, so I've changed my mind about that. Or get the vaccine and, as I said, prophylax. And I wanted to do a study on that, but again, you never have enough time to do everything that you want. You know, Leonardo da Vinci came up with the idea of a flying machine, or of a tank, of a submarine, over 500 years ago. And he didn't have all the utilities to do it, but we definitely would have gone a little earlier. Here again, the control showing that it is negative. You can see that's how negative should be. So I think if we approach medicine with crowdsourcing similarly, like we approached other stuff, we would find many more solutions and we would solve the problem with the COVID much faster. I just don't want 500 years to pass before someone will decide that they should avoid many of the viruses by disinfecting the indoor air using light, cheap, easily available, just like the battery. You know, now Tesla is amazing, but before, that's the first thing they had. They had electrical cars before they had gas cars, you know. And they were doing very well, they were doing very fast, but then the gas cars started going fast. So they forgot about the electrical cars until Elon Musk, you're amazing, right? So let's not wait for a long time before we get to our politicians. And if you have, as I said before, any connection with them, tell them to invest some money into our infrastructure by helping UVC be placed indoors and giving subsidies for that instead of making people stay at home or come to work early and make other people sick and die. All right, take care. I got work to do. Take care, everybody. Happy, healthy New Year to you all. Hopefully it was helpful to you guys.